Season 2 of the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship, a YouTube reality series that pits 6 martial artists against each other in various self-defense challenges, is now over. But although it's the second time I had to organize it, the amount of challenges and obstacles I had to go through to make it a reality were huge. And I'm going to tell you all about it in this video. But first, I want to announce that Season 3 is confirmed. But yet again, it's going to happen only if the crowdfunding reaches its goal. If it doesn't, Season 3 will not be happening. And I will explain later why. But first, let me tell you, Season 3 already has an amazing lineup. We have Wing Chun Master and BJJ Black Belt Kevin Lee, Kickboxing Living Legend and 6-time World Champion Gabriel Varga, former Canadian Special Forces soldier and pro MMA fighter Randy Turner, 4th-degree Kudo Black Belt and Kudo World's Vice Champion Vili Starcevichus, UFC fighter Natan Levy, who's coming back to defend his belt, and Sensei Seth is making a surprise comeback after becoming the National USA Sumo Champion and after just barely losing Season 1. And to make things even better, there will be 8 instead of 6 contestants in total, with the final 2 contestants yet to be announced. If you want to support Season 3 and get to see the show earlier than anyone else, go to www.usdcchampion.com/support or click the link in the description or at the top of the comments. Now, on to the trials and tribulations of organizing Season 2. After organizing Season 1, editing it myself and publishing, I was burnt out. I was planning to take a vacation, giving myself a chance to rest, recover, and celebrate until I got a message from co-host Jeff Phillips that the facility in Sydney, Australia, where we're filming USDC, is getting demolished in 7 months and that we need to organize and film Season 2 as soon as possible. So instead of resting, I immediately started talking to potential participants and organizing a crowdfunding for Season 2 as soon as possible. Luckily, I managed to secure both, a great lineup of participants, and with everyone's generosity, enough funding to make Season 2 a reality. Yet little did I know that this was just the beginning of so many difficulties that were about to come, and they all began on my way to Sydney. As I was traveling to Australia, I was already freaking out because of what happened last year. As when I first got to Sydney, I was stopped by the border security with concerns that I was arriving to make money in Australia. And even though that wasn't really true, the final message was that I was supposed to be banned from entering the country for years, and I was allowed in only as a good gesture. Now you can imagine how stressed I was flying to Australia again. I spent 6 months organizing a global event, invested everything I had to make it happen, and I was flying there knowing that there's a chance that they won't even let me in. Yet, the first unexpected twist happened even before I set foot in Australia. As my wife and I were making our way to the Down Under, we were passing through Tokyo, Japan, where after going through security, I was told to wait. Initially I thought, okay, it's just a regular routine checkup, maybe due to all the cameras that I was carrying in my bag. That's a thing that would happen once in a while. But the more time passed, the more concerned I became, as one security officer checking my bag turned into 2. Then soon enough, they turned into 3, until finally a whole group of officers were discussing something about me. I was beginning to realize that something is going on, until eventually one of the security officers approached me and explained that they found multiple self-defense pens in my bag in a, I quote, hidden pocket. Now the self-defense pens, I knew where they were from. They were given to me by our main Season 2 sponsor, Atomic Bear, but I wasn't sure what the hidden pocket was, until I remembered that I placed a bunch of self-defense pens in a side pocket of my camera bag, which appeared to be hidden to the officers. And I don't blame them for it, since in a way, it is a hidden pocket. Now usually the Atomic Bear self-defense pens don't get confiscated by the airport security, but the issue was that they thought I was trying to hide a bunch of them for unknown reasons. Then I realized that this is some serious stuff happening, as a few minutes later, not only there were 5 security guards surrounding me, but even 2 detectives in civilian clothes got involved. They were all carefully inspecting the pens, taking pictures, and even measuring them with a ruler. I was thinking, I'll get detained, miss my flight, and everything will go to ruin. Then one of the officers approached me again and asked me to justify my concealed weapons. Naturally, that's when I started telling him about the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship, what a cool show it is, and then I even showed him my channel. Luckily, I was eventually able to convince them that I had no bad intentions, and they were willing to let me go, even with the self-defense pens with me. But now I was so paranoid that I didn't want to risk the same misunderstanding again in Australia, given my troublesome past. So I gave the pens as a gift to one of the officers who was really nice and helpful to me. But now the question was if the Australian border would decide to send me back home this time. And trust me, I was really nervous about this. Then once my wife and I made our way to the Down Under, ready for another round of explaining to the border officers, I was super nervous. Then as we arrived at the airport, and with the shaking hands, I gave my visitor's form to the officer, pretending I'm not stressed at all as best as I can. And he told me I can pass with no questions asked. I thought, man, luck is on my side. This is a great sign. Everything else is gonna go great. But it turns out it didn't, as a whole set of new problems began as soon as I arrived to Sydney. During the first night of arriving to the filming location, before even the filming began, I got a fever, which turned out to be a case of COVID. Now this was the second worst scenario after not being allowed into the country. As all the participants made their way to Sydney, the filming was ready to start, and I couldn't even greet the guys properly, let alone direct anything in person. So there I was, locked in the room of a facility where the filming was happening, trying to coordinate everything through a phone while having a high fever, no energy, and a fuzzy brain. At the same time hearing all the action take place at the other side of the door, essentially missing out an event that I spent 6 months organizing and invested tens of thousands of dollars to make it happen. Luckily, my amazing wife was there to save the day. She took the reins of the director, and with some communication with me, and with the help of the rest of the team, including the attackers, my brother who came out to help me, the mastermind behind the challenges, Jeff Phillips, and everyone else, the filming was a success. And once the filming was done, my wife and I headed back home, expecting that this was the end of my problems. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. After my experience of editing the entire season 1 in less than 3 months by myself, while working on it 12 hours per day to make it in time, I knew that I didn't want to repeat the same mistake by giving myself too tight of a deadline. And so I scheduled to release the show 5 months after coming back to my country. It was actually a scary move, as I decided to completely devote myself to the editing, which meant I was not going to publish any other videos on my YouTube channel, so my views will go down, my finances will go down, and I knew that I will have to tighten my belt around my waist in order to push through this period. But I was ready to take that risk, as I wanted to deliver the USDC as best as I can, as quickly as I can. Yet, as I started editing, I clearly felt that I just don't have the energy and mental focus that I normally do. Initially, I thought that perhaps this was just traveling fatigue, but with weeks passing, my energy levels not only didn't get better, they gradually got worse, until eventually I had energy to do only one thing, just lie in the bed the whole time, waiting for the day to end. At the same time, I had no idea what was happening to me. So I went to consult with various doctors, but after visiting 3 different doctors and doing a dozen of different tests, they were all telling me that I'm fine, and they were suggesting that I should just get on with my life as if I was just pretending. Yet that was easier said than done. I still had no energy whatsoever, and every time I tried to force myself to edit the show, after about 15 minutes of editing, I felt completely exhausted. That is, until an MMA fighter friend of mine one day told me that he had the same symptoms, and after meeting a bunch of doctors, one of them told me that this could be a case of what they call long COVID, an after effect of COVID that lasts for up to 2 years. Now, I know that some of you don't believe that's a thing, and honestly, I don't have enough information to know if it's real or not, if it's all conspiracy, but I can tell you for a fact that I was so exhausted that I was more tired than ever. And at the same time, my MMA friend who had the same condition found a bunch of supplements that were helping him. Once I started taking them, and trust me, there was a lot of them, I kind of felt like I was a 100-year-old man just taking the entire cabinet of pills every day. Luckily, I started to feel better. I thought, this is it. This is the end of my problems. Surely things cannot get worse. My energy levels kept gradually improving, and I even started to have enough energy to go to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That is, until a guy broke my shin bone with an illegal move during open mat. Now there I am, lying in a hospital bed with a broken leg, thinking about how will I ever be able to edit the show until the deadline. To make things worse, the injury was a serious one. It was an intra-articular fracture, meaning it went all the way to my knee joint, leading to a complicated 3-hour surgery, 2 metal plates and 12 screws inserted into my shin bone for the rest of my life, and potential consequences to my knee joint in the future. Yet regardless, I was not ready to give up. When I finally made it back home from the hospital, because in addition to my broken leg, my nerves in the upper spine got inflamed from lying in the hospital bed for a prolonged time, leaving me with constant pain and a contracted neck and shoulders, while the leg itself was so swollen that it looked like an elephant's foot. Yet as soon as the nerve inflammation started to decrease, I immediately asked my wife to hook up my PC to the TV screen, and I started editing again, even while lying down in bed, partly paralyzed. Gradually, the swelling in my leg decreased, and I was able to bend my knee enough to sit by the computer and start editing there. And then with an addition of a hired assistant editor, I managed to have the show ready in time, but then, you guessed it, even that was not the end of my problem. Even though this didn't happen to all of the episodes, some of the episodes of the show got demonetized, as YouTube decided that this is a showcase of violence, and even though in the YouTube guidelines it's explained that you can show violence in an educational context, which I believe that's exactly what the show is, they still demonetized some of the episodes, which means that a portion of all that hard work that was put into the show, some of it will never make the money back. And at the same time, the same threat applies to the future, that some of the season 3 episodes may get demonetized by YouTube as well. That is why the crowdfunding is still such an important piece of the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship. The show is very expensive to make, and also with a lot of viewers wanting longer episodes, and with a desire to bring in even more contestants, the show is getting even more expensive. That is why if season 3 will happen, depends entirely if the crowdfunding will succeed in collecting the minimum amount of needed finances. So if you want to help make season 3 a reality and receive various benefits for doing doing so, such as being the first one to see the show as soon as it's ready, click on this link right here, or click the link in the description or at the top of the comments. As always, thank you so much for all of your support, and keep owning your journey.